In this presentation, I'll demonstrate the various types of basic dimensioning and how you can apply them to your drawing. Now, dimensioning is either found under the dimension pull-down, which is at the top of your screen on the menu bar, and you could continue using that pull-down if you prefer, or I'm going to hit Escape, and I'm going to right-click on any toolbar and pull up the Dimension toolbar. So that's the Dimension toolbar, and I'll dock it at the top of my screen. The Dimension toolbar has all the same commands that the Dimension pull-down has, and they are in the same order also. So we can get started. First, I want to make sure that you did double check to see if your arrows are working correctly, and if you need to, watch the Fix Arrow is Too Large demonstration, which precedes this one. You should also go through and watch the PowerPoint presentation so that you can go through and read about all the different types of dimensioning. If you've already done those two things, then let's get started. I'm going to go to Linear Dimensions. You can use linear dimensions for placing horizontal or vertical dimensions. So at the bottom of the screen, I'm going to pick my two endpoints, and I can place a dimension. So what you do is you define where is your first point, where is your second point, and then where is the location of the dimension line. And from that point, AutoCAD automatically will dimension what the measurement is between those two first points that you've identified. Those are known as the definition points or def points. When you're specifying the def points, you should always make sure that you're using Object Snap for accuracy. And as far as which Object Snap feature works the best, I would use intersection versus endpoint, so that you make sure that you're snapping to the intersection and not the endpoint of possibly another dimension. If you click on a dimension, you'll notice that it's all one entity. Hit Escape to clear the grips. So that is a basic horizontal or linear dimension. Let's do the same thing. I used linear dimension again, but this time let's do a vertical dimension. So I pick 2 points, I drag over and pick a point off on the right side, and it dimensions the vertical distance from the first point to the second point that I selected. So that's horizontal and vertical dimensions using linear. The next thing would be the aligned dimension command. Now if I go over and pick this angled line from one end to the other, it'll place that dimension, or the distance of that line, which is 1.8028, at an angle. So a line can dimension distances or measurements at any angle, not just vertical or horizontal like the linear dimensions do. Now same thing, if I happen to pick linear and I pick the same 2 points, notice that I get something totally different than when I do the aligned, because it's trying to dimension just what is the vertical distance. Or if I did the same thing and went over there and picked the same 2 points but I put it straight up, it would dimension the horizontal distances. So I'm going to get rid of those two. I'm going to click on them. They're all one entity. So I click them, hit erase, they're both gone. The next item would be arc length. With arc length, all you have to do is select the arc, in this case in the upper right hand corner, and it gives you what the arc length is from the start to the stop point. So that's the length of that arc at the curve that it's traveling. Up here also, the next thing you have is ordinate dimensioning. We'll not be going through ordinate dimensioning because that's based on a datum and is mostly found in mechanical drafting. So being that it does not apply to architectural drafting, we'll be skipping that command. So skipping that one, going to radius, click radius. That is used to dimension the radius of a circle. It automatically puts the center marks, and then it puts a leader line with an R in front of whatever the radius measurement would be. So in this case, R of 0.5 units. So radius of 0.5. I'm going to skip jogs for right now. I'm going to go to diameter. Same kind of thing. All you have to do is go over and select a circle, tell you where do you want to locate that leader line dimension, and in this case it gives you a center mark, a leader line, a diameter symbol, and it tells you the measurement of the diameter is 1.5 units. Next we'll take a look at the jogged command feature. I'll click jog from the dimension toolbar, then I'll select an arc or circle, and now I could specify the center, or otherwise I can choose to override the center of that arc. If I wanted to make the arc off to the side, you can do so. Specify jog location, and there we place the radius of that arc using the jog command. So what it does is it gives you a choice to override where the center of that circle arc would be, and then instead of having a straight leader, it gives you a jogged leader, and you get to define the location or look of it. So that's new in 2006, so some of your versions out there may not have that. It's not necessarily that important. It's probably more of a mechanical feature than architectural drafting anyway. But I chose to at least show you what it was. Next, going across the dimension toolbar is angular. Click on angular and then select 2 lines. I'll choose those 2 lines, and I can specify the angle between any 2 lines, arcs, circles, or points that you pick. So typically you're going to specify angles between 2 lines. there's 146 degrees. I'll go to the angular command again and select two lines and then pick the location of the angular dimension. And now AutoCAD calculates that to be 124 degrees. That is the angular command. Then you have quick dimension, which I'm going to skip and come back to in a separate presentation. And we'll go on to baseline and continue. Before I go to baseline and continue, I'm going to click on the two dimensions that I have placed with the linear command, delete them or erase them, and then I want to place a new horizontal dimension using linear, picking 2 points, clicking the dimension line location, and then instead of doing another one for the next two, I'm just going to go to baseline. It allows me to place additional dimensions referring back to the original base point, and all I have to do is pick the second extension line. It'll keep referencing back to the original baseline or base point. So pick the endpoints, hit enter when I'm done, and you can notice across the bottom then I've got three dimensions that I've placed fairly quickly. You have to place the first one using linear or aligned dimensioning, then you can place all remaining or following dimensions after clicking the baseline command. Continue works similar to that. I'll place the first one using linear, move out to the side. After it's been placed, I go to continue. Continue is a little bit different because it picks up where the last command had left off. Enter, and it places multiple dimensions from where the last dimension left off. So that's baseline and continue, and for the most part, that is how the basic dimensioning works in AutoCAD. We place linear, aligned, radius, diameter, angular. We use baseline and continue, and we also used the new arc length command, and I showed you the jogged command for placing dimensions. If you have any questions, make sure to contact me. Otherwise, this wraps up the presentation for basic dimensioning.